Where in the world is Ellen? Hello, everybody. This is Ellen Lurie, and I am currently in Cape Town, but this story comes to you from Namibia. It's actually a Vox story, or a series of Voxers that I sent to my friend Suzanne. This story gets a little graphic at around 5 minutes, so if you're sensitive, just be forewarned. I should also mention that this is a true story. I wish I could make stuff like this up. I would probably be a better writer, or something. Either which way, I hope that you get something out of this. I certainly did. I had to tell you about my bar experience. So here I am. I'm in Namibia. Try saying that 5 times fast. I'm on an island. It's about the size of Manhattan Island. And on here are about 2,000 people, 2,000 villagers. It's not really a town. There is no town. It's just little mud huts. Mud and stone huts, about 49 villages or so, and each village has about 40 people in it, blah, 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 you do the math. Anyway, it's about 2,000 people, all in all. And they range at all ages, but if you ask anybody who lived before the HIV crisis, they don't actually know how old they are. They just say, I'm old enough to use the toilet, because you have to be 60 to use the outhouse. Everybody else has to use the bush. So anyway, to get here, we had to use a boat. And you know me and boats, and I don't really get along with boats. So I took an anti-motion sickness pill that I got from Walmart that's cheap, and I'm going to throw away as soon as I get the chance, because it made me more sick than just being on the boat and normal. So anyway, I was all kinds of seasick, and everybody's like, well, we're going on a sunset cruise. And I'm like, good luck. I'm going to stay here. So I stayed here, and I was talking to the owner of this resort lodge that we're staying at. And he is South African, and he's white, and has a beautiful British accent, or I guess South African accent. And he told me, I asked him, hey, well, what's there to do? Is there a bar? He's like, yep, there sure is, but the locals here are very shy. They're very reserved, and they don't really talk to white people, and they don't really take to them, because, you know, white people tried to kill them and tell them how terrible they are and force them out of their homes and stuff. So they won't really take to you. But I will ask, and I'll let you know. I should explain a little bit backstory first, and that everybody lives with their extended family. So it's not just like you and your brothers and sisters and your mom and dad or whatever. It's like your cousins, your second cousins, your aunts, your uncles. Every single person will live in one hut, and you have to take care of like 20 people. And there's 400 students in the school. The school is primary to grade 10. If you don't work at the lodge, which is the best job that you can get, you're out fishing or collecting bundles of reeds that you sell as thatching. Those are really the only 2 jobs. And women, of course, do all the grunt work and all the hard jobs. Oh, and there is an uprising of, like, women doing harder jobs. And so then the men feel emasculated, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so there's a lot of, like, disgruntled people that just don't really get to do a whole lot. So what do? They drink. Or they smoke the ganja, as they say it all in quotations. It's kind of cute, because nobody here smokes pot. Unless you're really bad. Like, really bad. Like, it is looked at as probably one of the worst sins. Like, having HIV is okay, but smoking pot, totally not okay. So what a lot of kids will do, kids being like, anytime after grade 10, which is 14 or 15, they will either go to work, and they get jobs and whatever, and then they'll spend that money, and they'll just go to the bar, because they don't have anything else to do, or to live for, or to, aspire to. So they go to the bar. So alcoholism and HIV is probably the 2 biggest problems in this area. So I'm sitting up here, I'm finishing my book, I'm watching the sunset, and the next day I see him, and he's like, hey, so about that bar. And I'm like, yeah, I heard music and stuff. And he's like, yep, and did you hear it all of a sudden turn off? And I was like, yeah, that was kind of weird. I just figured power went out or something. And he was like, well, not exactly. Apparently what happened is that there was a fight. It started with 2 kids, 16, 15, something like that. And they got in an argument. They got in a giant fist fight, and one had a screwdriver, and he thrust the screwdriver into the other guy's neck. and the guy died instantly. I forgot to mention, so after the guy died, there's two things. One, the guy that died is buried a couple days later. What they do, they have this whole ceremony and stuff, and they kind of stomp on the ground, and they light candles, and they do this ritual thing, and then he's buried 6 feet under, obviously, and he's buried in the male plot, because what happens is there's a female plot, which is behind the house, and a male plot, which is in front of the house, and they believe that the spirit will protect their house, so that the ancestors will protect them. These ancestors go back generations, so the same ancestors are buried in the same plot, and they're just thrown into the ground. There's no coffin or anything like that. And the women are in the back of the house so they can help with the cooking, which is #adorbs. Other random fact about that, and that's why Africans don't want to move. That's why they don't want to be relocated, because it is actually a sin. It would be the cardinal sin to uproot and move your family, because then you're not around the ancestors that are protecting you. Like, who's going to protect you if you move away from the ancestors? So that's why they won't move, which is important for later stories. The guy that did the murdering, he is now in juvenile jail, and he will be going to adult jail once he turns 18. And because there were so many witnesses, there is no trial, and he will be in jail for 15 years without trial, without anything else, so on and so forth. When he gets out, the only thing that he could do is move back in with his family and do the same thing that he was doing before, which is fish and collect reeds and stuff like that for his family. So he is bound to village life. There is no future for him. Yeah, so that happened at the local bar on this tiny little island that's as big as Manhattan. And we took a picture of the bar, which I'm going to send to you later, or I'll just post it on the book face. I can't ever say that I almost or nearly went to a bar that had mortality happen, but I lived in Baltimore, so that, I don't know, I figure that should have happened like way more often than it did in Africa.
I've actually reproduced this podcast. I wanted to tighten it up and take out all the ums and whatnot, but mostly I wanted to leave off with something better. Before, I just didn't really know what to say. I just told this awful story of this 15-year-old kid who was sentenced in jail because he had a fight and killed somebody else. And don't get me wrong, in a really gruesome way. But I recently listened to a podcast called Serial, which is kind of a similar story. An 18-year-old kid gets accused of murdering his girlfriend, except this kid has no track practice. There's no Best Buy, there's no payphone. There's nothing exciting in this African kid's life except for fishing or collecting thatch and supporting his family. Exactly the same thing that he's going to be doing once he gets out of jail. Now, this isn't a plug for some after-school programs or a plea for how wonderful the arts programs are, but I really can't help but think that maybe those things work. What do you think? Send your comments to me at ln@lnlurie.com or go to my blog at lnlurie.com. And thanks to Dexter Britain for his music contribution. I'll see you guys next week.